Last night on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome inside the Fan Cave, and thank you for joining us. Thank you, Jessica Guay. 412-575-2600 is always a number for you to call. Air your opinions on anything Pittsburgh sports related. We had two big games tonight. I'm here in the Fan Cave, and Andrew Fillipponi's up at 93.7 The Fan. We'll start with the Penguins, who dug a hole in this game. Bad second period, power play again. Wears a collar, an 0-for-3 collar, and then right out of it, Matthew Barzal got a big goal. There was a mistake by Erik Karlsson. They fought back to try to tie this game, and they did. And then they just let Adam Pelech walk right in and score all alone. And that was it, the only shot of overtime. And Andrew, you can't keep giving up points. This is one they had two, you would thought, wrapped up against the Kings. They didn't get any. And tonight, you lose ground. So Pony can't lose ground. They lost ground again tonight.
Bob, I think it's time to cut your losses with this team. And Kyle Dubas, where have you been? You made a lot of moves in the offseason. You've been patient. You wanted to assess the situation, see what kind of team you had. You thought this was going to be a special year. That's why you brought Karlsson in to kickstart this team and get them out of last year's malaise when they missed the playoffs. It hasn't worked. They're 8 points behind the Red Wings. There's younger teams. There's hungrier teams. There's better teams ahead of them. Too many teams to leapfrog over. You've got teams like the Islanders and the Devils who, if they get a goalie, look out. They're a good team even without those guys, and they haven't even been healthy this year. The Flyers seem to not want to go away, even though we all have them pegged for a slide in the second half of the season. So, Bob, I would get rid of Gensel. I would make that trade. See what else you can get for guys like Lars Eller, Nedeljkovic. I mean, Riley Smith, you should try to trade, but I don't know who would want him based on what a miserable season this has been. They should be sellers for the first time since Sidney Crosby's rookie season. That's how I would look at this team right now. Be honest, you're not going to get Gensel, best case scenario, back until after the deadline. By then, you'll probably be double-digit points out of a playoff spot. So the power play has been a disaster. It is time to, I think, if you're the GM, start making calls about dumping players and not adding them.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much where they are at this point. And Dubas has said all along here, Pony, that he's going to wait and see how it goes. Now he's 2 weeks away. I know he's going to meet with the media tomorrow, and I'll be interested. He'll probably not say all that much because it is 2 weeks away from the deadline. But I got to believe at this point he's going to be taking calls, trying to figure out how to, add some things that can help them in the future. Because right now, and Malkin, that's one guy we haven't mentioned, 2 goals in 19 games. And tonight, again, there were times he looks a little nonchalant out there for me. He can turn it on when he has to, but 2 goals in 19 games, you can't do that if you're Evgeny Malkin.
Well, he's got a no-movement clause, and they gave him a long-term extension. So you made your bed, now you got to sleep in it, Bob, with him. And so many great moments. It was awesome that he got to be here Sunday for the Yager ceremony, and he got to take that picture with the 3 other iconic Penguins. That's one of the reasons why you kept the guy around, because you want him to be a part of those lifetime memory moments. But there's a downside to that, too, which is this team is aging out terribly. And so I think you've just got to live with it and hope he gets better next year, or you've got to find a way to now, I think, accept that he's not going to be the type of player that he was in the past. Bob, I was wrong about this, but if you look at what Vinny Trocheck has done in New York, he probably would have been a better fit for this team than Evgeny Malkin. I hate to say it, but because Malkin's such an iconic 3-time Stanley Cup champion. But that's a move they probably should have made at the time.
And they could have probably traded him a few years ago if they wanted to as well, before it ever came to this. He was in a position that he could have gotten more for them, and they decided to just wait and then extend. And now, you got to deal with what you have, and there's not much help in the system as well. We got to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about the other team in town that was playing. It's Pitt. Not much better result here going on. That and more, plus your phone calls at 412-575-2600. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call on KDKA+. GMC Sierra tweet of the night tonight comes from NHLPA, and they congratulate Erik Karlsson on 800 career points, most of them not here. This year it hasn't been exactly the kind of year that I thought he would have or they would have with him. And so that's where the Penguins are. And they have a game against Montreal coming up this week on Thursday. And then it is a game against the Philadelphia Flyers. Again, home games, you got to win them. And if you just, chase and keep losing points by getting loser points. Andrew, the one thing that bothers me about the Penguins is with all the talent they have, they seem to go to overtime and they're not very productive. You would think that if a game goes to overtime, that they would have some sort of an advantage. There are a lot of talented people in this league, don't get me wrong, but they have a lot of experience in this sort of thing, and yet it doesn't seem to ever result in wins.
Bob, that's a good point. Sidney Crosby has obviously been a guy that still, at 36 years old, has produced so many highlight reel plays this year. But one of the things I thought we were going to get with this team, even if they weren't Stanley Cup caliber, was that they were going to be entertaining. Is that you would have a lot of nights where they probably lost, but they scored a lot of goals and it was fun hockey. This team has not done that. They have frankly been boring a lot of nights. They've played what Mike Sullivan calls low event hockey, where they'll have a period where they get not 2 goals, but 2 shots. And that's just not what we signed up for when that Erik Karlsson trade got made. Is that I thought he would at least make the Penguins interesting, Bob, but the exact opposite has happened. 3-on-3 hockey and the power play, I thought were going to be 2 things where this team excelled this year. In fact, it's been the exact opposite. Those are the 2 areas that have really held them back.
No question. And if they miss the playoffs, which it looks like it's heading in that direction, those will be the reasons why. Let's go to our number 1 Cochrane Go One Better caller of the night. It's Dave on the north side. Hello, Dave. What's up?
Yeah, I think they should have listened to Jim Rutherford 4 or 5 years ago. They should have got retained in Malcolm. The team would have been younger. They should have did it 3-4 years ago. What do you think about that, Bob?
Well, I've said that for several years, especially with Malkin. Letang, I could have gone either way on that, but Malkin was a guy who I thought had reached a point where, he did a lot of great stuff here. But the nostalgia part of this was something that this ownership group kind of wanted to continue. I understand they want that. They want to sell tickets. They want to keep that vibe alive. But at the same time, this aging process, you never know how it's going to go. With Crosby, it hasn't affected him yet. In fact, he still looks pretty good. But I would say that Malkin's not the same player. Letang is okay, but Malkin's not the same player. He was the one guy I was targeting, Pony, a few years ago that I thought they could have gotten a lot for him. He was still putting up big numbers. He still could have been a force on another team that was close to winning, and they chose not to do it.
Well, let's go back to what Dave said there. Bob, do you believe him that Rutherford wanted to trade one or both of those guys? Do you think that's an accurate statement?
I don't know. I've heard that, but I haven't confirmed that with anyone involved in that front office, including Jim.
So you're not ruling it out?
No, but I don't know it to be a fact either.
Okay.
So,
the thing about Malkin, and this is
Rutherford's departure, a lot of people still don't know why.
Yeah.
And it's a really tightly guarded secret.
Well, the thing about Malkin is, I just don't think Sidney Crosby, it would have been over his dead body that they moved him. And that's a consideration, is that you have this all-time great player, one of the 5 best in hockey history, and he wanted to play his entire career with Evgeny Malkin. So you would have needed to give him the all-time sales pitch to trade Malkin a number of years ago.
What about
I don't
Gensel?
think he would have gone for it.
What if Crosby wants Gensel still? Because he's been his best winger that he's ever had.
Well, it sounds like they haven't even approached him about that, which I thought was interesting. That they haven't even asked Sidney Crosby for his input. Now, Rob Rossi asked Sid, and he seemed to be okay with the idea of trading Gensel. He did not give a quote that made me think that there would be consequences for trading Jake. So I don't know. It's interesting. I guess he won 2 cups with Gensel, and he plays on the same line with him, but he doesn't put the guy in the same category as Letang and Malkin from the sounds of things.
Well, he also may have a different view of what this team is versus what it was back then when maybe that Malkin talk was coming up. Let's go out to John in Finleyville. Hey, John, what's up? John?
Yeah.
Go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, how you doing?
All right. What's up?
I was calling about tonight's game. I mean, I don't understand why Dubas doesn't. He's got to do something. I mean, Gensel. I would trade Gensel if it was me.
But you got to play the game, though. John, you got to play the game a little bit. If you want to, you can't make it known that you want to do it. They've already made him an offer. He's turned it down. His group, his team. you got to try to get the most you can. And listen, even if he's a rental player, if there's a team out there, and this is a very competitive situation, if you have a chance to win a Stanley Cup, and you want a rental player, you understand you may not be able to retain him, but you're going to give up a lot for him. I think there's a big market there for a guy like that. Pony, I do. Rental players can help a team win a championship.
And we've seen rental players go for more in hockey than they do baseball. These general managers seem to be more willing to part with future assets to try to win that holy grail Stanley Cup. And so the Penguins are usually the ones that have to pay the premium. Now they're on the other side of things. And so Dubas should act like he has the most coveted possession at the trade deadline. He's going to get healthy, and there are not many guys that can play in a top line and score 40 goals in a season. The Penguins should have a bidding war for Jake Gensel in the next couple of weeks.
Joe in North Braddock is up next. Hello, Joe. What's going on?
Good evening, Bob. Hey, I'm just wondering, I was at the game tonight, and I'm watching this power play, and they go 2 minutes in a power play, one shot. I mean, we got to find a way for them to do something. I mean, even the crowd is like, we almost were ready to boo because we had a power play because we know we're not going to score.
Yeah, it was 13.4%, I believe, coming in. They went 0 for 3, and you know, it's kind of the same stuff. And Andrew, the problem here is that you can't really make massive changes to your personnel. I still think a big body in front, and Carter fills that. If not, bring in. Do they still have Zahorna on their roster somewhere down in Wilkes-Barre? He's a big dude. Put him. They need somebody there, and they need to do what a lot of successful teams do, like the Islanders. They have Anders Lee is a pain in the neck. Have you ever watched him operate there? He gets in front of the goalie and makes life tough.
Bob, I want to just maybe amend something that you said there. They can make those moves. They can make big personnel moves. I just don't think they have the stomach for it.
Like what, though?
What
would be big personnel moves?
Well, I mean, if they wanted to, they could shop just about every player on their roster who doesn't have a full no movement clause.
Well, I'm talking about internally right now. I thought that's what he meant. What do you do with the current roster? You can't make any. Who are you going to put? You know, they've tried different guys. Who has the wherewithal to be on the top power play unit? Lars Eller, okay, he gave the puck away the other day. He's not a top-of-the-line kind of guy. Internally, that's what I thought he was referring to.
Yeah, maybe that is what he meant, so I apologize there. But it's amazing to me the organizational acceptance of what's gone on this year. And that even when I hear the post-game tonight again, Mike Sullivan, talking about good things they did in this game. I mean, they preach a lot of positivity, Bob, with their power play being close, with their team being close, and it's pretty much the same result night after night, where it's close but no cigar. And it's at this point, it's really old to hear them talk about how they're on this brink of a breakthrough that we haven't seen come to fruition.
No, I think that's exactly right. Good point by you, and it is. It's just, now maybe he's saying something behind closed doors. I hope he is. I'm sure he is. But he's not the kind of guy who come out and pull a Rick Pitino and throw everyone under the bus like Pitino did the other day with the St. John's team. We got to take a break.
Yeah, but Rutherford would do stuff like that. I like that about Jimmy.
Question.
He'd come right out and blast people if they deserved it or needed it.
But Sullivan, have you ever heard him do that? I haven't.
Not really.
No, I mean, he may talk about the team in general, but he'll never, single out anyone, and that's just the way he does it. But I got to
How about a Tarian speech, Bob? How about something like that? Let's get one of those.
Well, Yager was in there tonight and felt like dying alive at times, and that's Tarian's one of those guys. I loved his speech, and he lit a fire. He knew how to do it. We're going to talk about Pitt. They're getting trounced right now by Wake Forest. When we come back, we also have Jimmy and Jim on the line. We'll try to get you all in. We need to take a break. This is the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We're live right here on KDKA+. Tonight, Pitt is getting pounded. And I guess it was due. They've won 7 of 8. They go to Wake Forest after they beat Wake Forest here. Wake's a pretty good team. They got some outside shooters for sure. Salas is one of their main men. And tonight, Blake Hinson has been completely taken out of the game. And you knew that was going to happen after 41 points. He only has 8 points, 2 in the first half. And, that's my thing I told you last night. If this team, lives by the shooting of outside shots, and they can also die this way.
Yeah, it was a perfect storm. They couldn't shoot the ball at all, which was really their problem for most of the ACC season before their hot streak. those guys really struggled. Carrington didn't shoot the ball at all. They shot as a team under 30%, I think, last check. And Wake Forest shot it over 55% and made a ton of threes. And they have not lost at home this season. They're now 14-0 in Winston-Salem. It's a Carolina league, Bob. They get home cooking down there, and they used it to their advantage tonight.
They certainly did. And how about UConn got pounded tonight, too? So I think this is going to be a wide-open March
Creighton's
Madness,
good.
don't you? Yeah, Creighton by 19,
Creighton
though.
can play.
That's a big difference. But I'm looking forward to it. It's coming here to Pittsburgh as well.
Are we going to go to the games together?
We should. Didn't we do that the last time? Or did we? I don't remember.
Do you think our wives would be okay with that?
Sure they would. They'd love to get together, and we'll be together, be bonding on two different fronts. Or you can bring them, whatever you want. We're going to run out of time.
All right, Bob.
Thanks, Pony. Appreciate it. We'll do it again tomorrow night, 10:35. We hope to see you then. Thanks for joining us on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.